What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live here on a Thursday night. We got a little bit of news to talk about. It's kind of the dead portion of the offseason, but we have some Ben Simmons stuff to touch upon. I know that a lot of you in chat will love that conversation. And then we have Dennis Smith Jr. signing a training camp deal with the Portland Trail Blazers, so we will touch on that as well. Eric, how's your day been, man?
Oh, it was a really good day. Got some work done, hung out with the kids, and now just chilling, waiting for the stream.
Nice. I'm all out of sorts right now. I ordered DoorDash over an hour ago. It just got here, man. I wanted it before the stream. I have Rec League up till 9 p.m. on Thursday nights, so just expect Thursday night streams around 9:45 instead of 9:30. So... yeah, my food just got here. I'll be muting occasionally when Eric's talking and eating off camera. I know some of you weirdos probably want to watch me eat on stream. I know some of you have a fetish for that, but we're not gonna do that. So yeah, I don't know. I've just been kind of running around, and now I finally get to sit down for pretty much the first time today and talk basketball with y'all. So hopefully, you guys are all having a good day as well. First, you want to just hop into the signing that the Blazers did today, Eric? Do you want to just talk? I want your thoughts on that because I feel like we might be a little bit divided.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of the few that is actually okay with it, especially since the training camp deal. Also, so the Blazers haven't really done this. I don't remember the last time we did this actually, but a lot of teams have non-guaranteed players on their roster. And so if we're not going to use that 15th spot because we want to save it for an unbalanced trade or whatever, you could have a non-guaranteed guy till January 10th, I believe is the date, unless they changed it because of COVID. But so in my mind, a guy like Dennis Smith Jr., sign him to a non-guaranteed deal to make the team as your 15th guy, still have to sign someone else probably. Definitely need a third center, I believe. But that gives you, 3 months into the season to see what you have, see if Billups can unlock anything with him. I think Billups might see a little bit of himself in Dennis Smith Jr. being a high lottery pick himself, who kind of struggled his first few years in the league, but definitely has some defensive qualities and some abilities that not a lot of players can match athletically. So maybe he can bring something to the table, and I don't mind it at all as like an into the roster kind of guy or giving him a shot in training camp.
Yeah, see, I'm a little bit more. I don't know, like
stream, by the way.
Dude, what is with us, man? How did you? Somebody has to timestamp that. I asked somebody to timestamp that in Twitter group chat. I don't know if they did, but yeah, somebody has to give us the timestamp on that. We were just on fire this year. As far as Dennis Smith Jr. goes, I don't know, man. I don't want him on the roster. A lot of people are like hyped up about it because he was a highly regarded high school guy, high draft pick, was in a dunk contest, right? So he's kind of like an exciting player, but he can't shoot the ball. He's not efficient from 3. He's not efficient from 2. He doesn't get to the free throw line for his career in 25 minutes per game. Only shoots 2.5 free throws. So you look at him as an athlete and think, okay, he should be able to get to the rim, should be able to get to the free throw line. He doesn't really finish around the rim too well, and he doesn't really get to the free throw line. So like offensively, I just don't see the upside in any sort of capacity, man. He's just 4.4 assists per game in those 25 minutes for his career. He's just not a good passing point guard and not efficient from any area of the floor. And defensively, like, he's just very meh to me. I don't know. I don't, like, I know he's still young. He's, 23 years old, almost 24. So maybe he has some untapped growth, and maybe Chauncey Billups is the perfect head coach for him. So it's not something where I'm like, oh no, screw this. It's an end of the roster guy, so I'm not really tripping about it. I'm not a believer in Dennis Smith Jr., so I don't really care for this signing.
Yeah, actually, just to correct you, his defense has actually improved a lot, and he's actually known as kind of a guy who's transformed himself into a decent defender. So maybe they see some potential there, just as being kind of a in-your-face kind of stopper type.
But it's like, yeah, if we're just going for like a defensive backup point guard, I'd rather just go sign Ntilikina to like a normal contract because he has the size to guard ones and twos, and offensively, I don't think he's any worse than Dennis Smith.
I mean, this is a training camp, so it's not guaranteed to be on the team. And I'm guessing that Ntilikina wouldn't accept a training camp offer, and we weren't willing to waste a roster spot at this time on a guaranteed contract. So, I think guys like Ntilikina and Avery Bradley, I'd put in that same group. I think probably are waiting for better offers or something. And, if we could still sign one of those guys if they decide to take the minimum, but and then we just move on from Dennis Smith. So I don't think so. I don't think it hurts anyone to have. I was kind of surprised he actually signed a training camp deal versus some team picking him up.
Yeah, it's just like, what is he going to show during the preseason that will stand out? Because he's the type of guy that I could see in the preseason having some good games, but I don't he's had some good performances in the past, but extrapolated over an entire season, he's not a guy that is productive. So that's the thing. It's he has enough athletic ability to, in a preseason game where guys aren't really playing as hard, to be able to go out there playing for a roster spot and look good, but it's not a situation where that would make me want him on the roster anymore. So I kind of wish we'd rather go out and get an unheralded guy on a training camp deal where if he goes out and looks good, I don't know, I'll throw a name out there that a lot of people will be like, dude, what are you talking about? But it's a guy that you've liked. I would rather go out and get a Jonah Bolden, who I believe has had talent, just hasn't gotten a consistent opportunity. I would rather go out and get a guy who's unproven, where if he looks good in preseason, then it's something where it's okay, maybe this guy is NBA caliber, where if Dennis Smith looks good in preseason and training camp, it doesn't change my opinion about him because we've seen enough of him and we know he can dominate in a preseason or a summer league setting, but not in the regular season.
Yeah, I think, as mentioned in chat, I think that's might be the plan, is just to have a bunch of training camp guys. I think you can bring up to 20 into training camp, so just let 4 or 5 guys fight it out for a spot. So it's possible. This doesn't mean we're not going to sign a backup center either. Harry Giles is still out there. You mentioned Bolden, Scal. Those kind of guys are all. There's plenty of those still available. So I think the plan might be to sign a backup center now, or sometime between now and training camp, I think, and then let that 15th spot play itself out with other guys. But
yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. That's the thing. A training camp deal, I'm not gonna trip about it. I'm not as high on Dennis Smith Jr. as a lot of other Blazer fans seem to be.
Yeah. I'm not high on him. I just think, as an invitee to camp, what does it hurt? He's obviously super talented if he ever figures out the rest of his game,
Is he super talented though? He's an athlete, but in terms of basketball skill, he's not a guy that shoots super well. He's not a guy that passes well for a point guard. I don't know. To me, he just screams more athlete. Which, okay, if Oshie just wants to make a super athletic bench, okay, cool. I'm down with it, I guess. But he just screams more athlete than basketball player.
More athleticism this year is obviously.
Yeah.
His shooting numbers weren't great his rookie year, but he did average 15 and 5 as a rookie. It's not terrible. There is something in there that made him okay at one point.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what people said about Marcus. I don't know. People were like, it's a training camp deal, give him a chance. I'm not giving him a chance. I'm cool, I'm not completely shunning him. I just don't think he's good. You know what I mean? I just don't think he's worthy of a roster spot. And I don't see him doing anything in the preseason to make me think he's worthy of a roster spot. So that's just kind of where I sit on it.
Mm-hmm.
Which maybe comes across as not giving him a chance. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Hazonia, to me, was different because people actually thought he was better than he was. Whereas Dennis Smith Jr., I think most of the takes I've seen today are pretty reasonable about not expecting a lot, but there's still could be a chance he might be good. So why not take a flyer on it?
Yeah. I mean, I will say I'm pretty good at calling out players who suck.
Yeah.
But the only guy I was wrong on was probably Derrick Jones Jr. But what did I say? What was the famous line? He's a terrible fit here, man. So that was like some stocks.
He's a terrible fit.
Yeah, the classic. So I mean, it's whatever. I don't know. People will be like, you're being too negative, but you guys know I just call it how I see it. I'm just not really high on his game. That's just where I sit. So shout out JM $2 or JM1231. I don't know if the numbers are of importance, but shout out JM for the $2 dono. He says, saw him play live in college. He is very talented. Any player in the NBA playing in college will look talented, but I mean, I don't know. He was nice in college. That's why he was a top 10 pick.
I just looked up Chauncey Billups' stats, like the first few years he was in the league, and his shooting numbers might actually be worse than Dennis Smith Jr.'s his first 3-4 years.
Chauncey's like an outlier, though.
No,
you know
I
what
know,
I mean?
But what I'm saying is, like, Chauncey might see something in him.
Yeah.
That could be unlocked, I don't know.
If he was 6'5", I'd be like, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's the other part of it is he's only 6'2", so he's not a guy that you can hypothetically play with Dame because like I don't know, you said he's a good improving defender, but is he going to be able to defend twos?
So I don't know, I think he's more of a point guard defender, but I mean, he couldn't be worse guarding twos than our two guys right now. Yeah, what's his standing reach, Tori?
I will get that to you guys. Here we go. Dennis Smith Jr. combine measurements.
But I don't know. So two things that he's kind of transformed his game from being the man scorer type that he thought he was going to be. He's actually transformed into being a solid on-ball defender and a good slasher/cutter. So those are two things that if you can kind of get him to buy into being more of a role player than the first few years in the league, he had to think he was going to be a star after his being drafted in the top 10 and being a rookie. Being pretty good his rookie year. So players like that have to realize, and if you can become a good role player and use like the skills you have to be good at areas that you weren't necessarily known for, I think that's something you could take a look at, and I have no problem with that.
His standing reach is 8'1" 8'1". So point guard standing reach. I think that's like identical to James. But I mean, sure. You know what? Like, bring some excitement to Fan Fest in preseason.
Yeah, definitely adds to our dunking repertoire.
Yeah,
but
we need to have a dunk contest in Fan Fest, man.
So Reese said he didn't quite qualify for minutes played for his stat, but if he did include him in 392 minutes, he would have ranked in the 97th percentile for defense. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not gonna say I don't trust Reese's stat. I'm not gonna say that. But yeah.
I mean,
I don't know how
you watched it, how good his defense was this year? Something?
I mean, like, I don't know. I don't watch Dennis Smith Jr. So, like, that's the thing. Like, I don't know. Okay, maybe he's a great defender.
Well, you're not buying it, but you also don't know. So that's kind of...
I mean, yeah, but I don't know. Like, I would need to... Like, I'm not going to, like, buy that he's a really good defender until I see him, because he wasn't, like... He wasn't a guy that came into the league a really good defender. So, like, I can believe that he's improved and whatnot. It's just, like, something that I've got to see because I've never really thought about him in that way. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Like, I would like to rest Dame and CJ for at least one of the preseason games, and he should get some burn. So, I mean, like, I'm not tripping about it. Yeah. I'm not tripping. I'm just not high on him. That's just how it is. But, like, I'm not saying that, oh, they shouldn't have signed him, terrible, yada, yada. I'm just like, whatever.
Tino Paz brings up another good player that fits that mold we were talking about with Billups is Cameron Payne, who really transformed his game and played well after it looked like he was going to be out of the league after a few years.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing is like, I want Olshey to do a better job finding those guys, like finding diamonds in the rough, and Chauncey I feel like will be a little better developing unheralded guys into potential role players and stats was maybe not second round picks, but like guys who are on their third chance or fourth chance. Like Mario Hezonja didn't fit in the Stotts offense, but I feel like Mario Hezonja would have been at least a little bit better in a Chauncey Billups-led offense. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it'll make it easier on some guys. Like Harry Giles, I think, would have played a lot better last year under Chauncey Billups. So it's sort of something where it's like, like Chauncey Billups would be the right coach for a point guard like that. So if he could become the next Cameron Payne, cool. The problem is we don't, like, the Suns needed a backup point guard. Shoot, the Suns needed a starting point guard. You know what I mean? They couldn't find their starting point guard until they traded for Chris Paul. With us, it's like, yeah, Ricky Rubio. With us, it's like we have our three guards. So,
yeah. But we've always talked about having that other point guard that is there for emergency and who doesn't. And that's why I think Dennis Smith Jr. is perfect, because if he pops, it's like a low risk, high reward, but he's also not going to demand playing time like signing an Avery Bradley would. So I don't know. I have no problem with it. I'm not expecting him to pop or to be like, even a rotation player. But if it does happen, that's really good value for just bringing him in on possibly a non-guaranteed contract.
Yeah. Yeah, I would kind of rather have a vet in that role that would like know how to fit in and not and like kind of play with the team. Whereas like offensively, Dennis Smith Jr., I'm not sure how he like fits in or if like we can trust him. So I would rather have a vet there, but is there a vet good enough to justify having them over kind of a little bit more of a wild card lottery ticket than Dennis Smith Jr.? I don't know. Like I haven't looked at the free agent list lately, so.
Well, the guy I wanted 2 years ago, who I'd also put in this category with Cameron Payne and Chauncey, is Trey Burke. Got off to a pretty good start in Utah and then kind of fizzled out, and then was on waivers, a free agent. Anyone could have signed him, and Dallas signs him, and he actually stepped in and played a good role for them in the bubble and stuff, and then, turns that into signing a long-term contract with them. So, I don't know. That's there's a lot of point guards like that, I guess. I don't see why it couldn't be Dennis Smith Jr., but
it's not the wrong move. I'm not as high on it as I saw other people, so that's just kind of where I lie.
NBA Forever says George Hill would be perfect. I would love George Hill on this team, but he's one of those guys.
He's in Milwaukee.
Yeah, he already signed, but he's one of those guys who, if you sign him and then he doesn't play, like, he's going to want to play over Simons, and that kind of messes with the rotation and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. So, anyway, moving on. Unless there's anything else you want to touch upon. Topic du jour. Yeah, we gotta get around to this. Yeah. So, if Ben Simmons gets traded, the Blazers are 2-1 favorites to be the team that trades for him. Ben Simmons will not report to training camp. He's basically forcing his way out of Philadelphia. Daryl Morey, who has heavily overvalued Ben Simmons all offseason long, is now put between a rock and a hard place where he has to try and find a trade package for Ben Simmons after basically demanding absurd trade packages back from all offseason long. Daryl Morey doesn't look too smart right now because reports are that he wasn't willing to include Tyrese Maxey with Ben Simmons in a package for James Harden. Of course, James Harden then gets traded to the Brooklyn Nets. And James Harden is the perfect player for that team. The perfect player. So yep. Morey should have done that trade. Morey right now...
Man, Harden and Embiid, that would have been sick.
Dude, and you still got Tobias Harris there.
It would have balanced the roster, like the East so much now that Brooklyn got him, yeah.
And, so that's the thing, is like, not only did they not make that trade for him, he got traded to an Eastern Conference rival. So, I've said for a while Daryl Morey is overrated. He just hunted for stars there in Houston, and he went too heavily towards the analytics by completely abandoning the mid-range shot. We also saw how that worked out in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors back in 2016, I think it was, 2017. Yeah, 2017. So now it's just a situation where it's like, okay, Morey, you have backed yourself into a corner. What are you going to do now? The Blazers are the favorites to trade for him, and that's kind of where everything lies at right now. I think, I don't know, man. I don't know how this plays out, but you get a lot of Blazer fans talking and debating about Ben Simmons again, which has been a debate going on all offseason. I remember dropping a CJ McCollum Ben Simmons trade video. I said a CJ McCollum for Ben Simmons trade feels inevitable. I dropped that back in July. It's September. So This is an ongoing saga. What's just your whole read on the situation, thoughts on the situation? Like, do you think it's more likely that we trade for him than you did a week ago? How do you think this plays out? Just what are your thoughts on this whole mess?
Well, to add to what you were saying first, Dame threw fire on the conversation last night by liking a tweet.
I forgot that.
A picture of him and Ben Simmons both in Blazer uniform. So my take on that liking of that tweet was Dame saw himself and someone else coming to Portland, and he was just so happy that it wasn't him in a Philly jersey or something, or a New York jersey or a Laker jersey, that he liked the tweet without even like thinking of how that would look. So I don't think that was like, oh, I want Ben Simmons that bad that I'm gonna like this tweet or whatever. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but it does seem inevitable. I still don't like it. I know a lot of people think we're crazy and stupid and we don't know anything about basketball since we don't want someone as talented, a 6'10", all-star. We don't want that in Portland. We're so stupid, right? I've never liked the idea of Dame and Ben Simmons together. And I don't understand why so many people think that would work. I have a hard time both trusting Simmons as a player, like when it comes down to crunch time, if you can depend on him to be like in the game and have his head right. And no matter how good the regular season would be, because I think we'd be really good in the regular season with Ben, but I'd be scared the entire season that coming fourth quarter of a playoff game, that guy would just melt down like he did last year. And there was nothing we could do about it at that point. We'd just be stuck with him. And I don't think he really raises our ceiling enough to warrant like giving the farm for him or like, making our protections with Chicago different and trading a bunch of picks in this trade to get him. So I guess like if it was CJ for him straight up or something of minimal asset value for it, I wouldn't be that mad. But I would hope we'd explore third team options to send him to first, if that's the case.
So here's just all the problems, and I've laid this out in the past. I'll lay it out again. I don't think you can survive in the playoffs with only one guy on the roster who can create his own shot off the dribble at a high level. Some people will say Norman Powell can, but he's more of a catch-and-shoot guy. Catch and attack the closeout and get to the rim, play in transition, get buckets off cuts. He's not a guy who I trust to like put the ball in his hands and he's going to be able to like create a good shot for himself at a high level. I think he can do it at an okay level, but that's not really his game. Who else on the roster other than Dame, if you trade CJ for Simmons, can create their own shot on a high level? Nobody. And here's the thing. Last year we relied too much on that. And I've been a big proponent of getting away from that. Okay? And I think we will be better in that regard this year under Chauncey Billups. But the problem is you still need guys that can do that. Just because we need to do less of it doesn't mean that, we can get by with only one guy that can do that. So it's sort of a situation in the playoffs where it's like if teams are doing a really good job at neutralizing Dame and you're not able to like exploit that possession after possession with the pass, where are you going to get your offense from? When Dame's out of the game, where are you going to get your offense from? And people say, oh, Ben Simmons can just create it for other guys. I don't know. In the playoffs, when you have a guy that isn't a threat outside of 3 feet, he's not going to be respected enough to be able to, like, truly be a threat. A lot of times, to me, it's like he's passing out of necessity because he can't even make shots outside of 3 feet. So, like, there's guys in the league that average high assist numbers, but I don't know, I feel like it's kind of, I don't know what the right word is. It's kind of something that I can't really put too much stock in them being a threat in the playoffs, right? You look at Russell Westbrook, and he averaged 10 assists a game, but he's not an efficient player outside of 3 feet. You look at what happens with him in the playoffs, he's not a good playoff player as a complementary piece. Ben Simmons hasn't been a good playoff player as a complementary piece. It resulted in the 76ers losing to the Atlanta Hawks in the second round last year. So it's sort of a situation where it's like, why do people think that he's going to be the complementary piece, the number 2 guy to Dame? And why do people ignore the fact that we'd only have one guy that could create their shot at a high level? And why do people think that's going to work in the playoffs?
Yeah, see, I'm kind of the opposite. I don't like it because I think it would be fine when Dame isn't in the game. I think Ben can run the second unit, maybe even better than CJ did. But I just, as much as I want Dame to play off the ball some, you cannot have Ben Simmons play off the ball at all. And we've seen that. Like, he literally cannot play off the ball. Like, it's terrible. And in the fourth quarter of these playoff games, he wasn't able to touch the ball or dribble on ball either. So my problem is you pretty much have to make Dame like a Klay Thompson type if you have a guy like Ben Simmons on the court. And as much as I want Dame to play off ball some, I don't want him to be like basically 24 out of his 36 minutes have to be off the ball. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I want a guy that can create for Dame with Dame playing off the ball, Dame running off screens, can make that pass, but then when Dame has the ball in his hands, can play off of Dame. And for as much heat as CJ McCollum gets, he's that guy. He's one of the best catch-and-shoot three-point shooters in the league. The problem is he doesn't shoot enough of them because he's constantly going one-on-one in a stagnant offense, so I'm hoping that'll change. If we run a better offense, I think CJ McCollum could easily have a career year shooting the three-point ball. I think CJ McCollum's value will be higher at the trade deadline, so that's part of it. I kind of just want to hold out and see what we could potentially get around the trade deadline. Maybe a Pascal Siakam is available, who I think makes much more sense for this team, and at least we get to see, okay, can Dame and CJ be a above-average defense under Chauncey Billups' coach? The thing is, they were the 9th-ranked defense like 3 years ago before Vanderpool left, and you look at what happened when he left, the defense cratered. So I think this is a backcourt that gets overblamed for some of the defensive issues, and I think we've fixed two of the biggest problems with the coaching staff, as well as we don't have Melo playing next to Enes Kanter off the bench. We actually have one of the best defensive, maybe the best defensive backup four in the league in Larry Nance Jr., and then you have a good defensive center in Cody Zeller, who I think is underrated on that end. So it's like, we fixed those two things. Ben Simmons would obviously make our defense better. He'd provide us more defensive versatility. I understand all that. But I feel like a lot of people are ignoring a bunch of issues, such as Simmons off the ball, which you stated, such as we'd only have one guy that could create their own shot at a high level, which, I don't know, like, has that ever really worked in the playoffs? Not particularly. So it's sort of just a situation where it's like, yeah, it would help our defense, but it opens up a bunch of other problems that people are ignoring. And for that reason, I'd rather just hold on to CJ, see if his value rises, see who could potentially become available at the trade deadline that might help us win a championship, because I don't think Ben Simmons gets us over that hump.
Yeah, and so let me just, I don't know how to phrase this, but you can have a decent defense if you have really good defensive personnel. But you can also have a good defense if you're well coached, you have good schemes, you have players who are smart, not necessarily super good like on-ball defenders, but like if you have a team of good off-ball defenders, you can be around 10th in defense just by having good schemes. Perfect example of that is New York last year, who went from being one of the worst defenses to one of the best defenses simply by changing the coach. And so all these people who are saying, but we need his defense, like, well, we've needed defense for years, and now you guys are saying you don't want one of the best defenders in the league. Well, I believe that this roster right now is already improved enough to be in that 10 to 12, maybe like 15th at worst defensively. And I don't think all the problems it would cause on offense are worth just making our defense a little bit better than that. And I just don't think in the playoffs having a worse offense or someone you can't count on to even touch the ball, maybe. I mean, we won't know that until next season if those issues are gone or not. But he still have to make free throws if he does have the ball. And obviously he has not proven to be the best mentally sound player ever. So, will he ever be good at shooting free throws in the playoffs? That's a tough question to answer. So it's just, to me, I feel like no matter how good defensively he is, I think it causes problems offensively that we don't currently have if we keep the same roster. So why I can see why people are intrigued by him, but a part of me is just like, it's kind of similar to the Aaron Gordon thing where people think he just need a change of scenery or like he'd be different on our team when he's just a bad player. Like he's not good. Like he wouldn't have been an all-star if he got traded to Portland or whatever. Like, yeah. But people seem to think that he would have been if we would have traded for him. And it's just, that's the type of thing like, oh, it'll be different on our team. And it's like, I don't think it will. Like, that's just who he is. He's not good mentally. He's never been good mentally. Even dating back to college, he hasn't really carried his team or been that type of player. So, it's just, I mean, I understand why people are intrigued by him. I just don't like, if we're trading for a star, that's why I've always said I want him to be part of a trade that gets us someone else versus, a part of a trade that he's the piece coming back. And to be honest, I was talking to Reese in chat about this before we went on the air. I mean, there's someone on his team that's probably just as good a defender and would cost a lot less to go and get, and that's Matisse Thybulle. So if you just want a great perimeter point of attack defender, I would rather just go give up something smaller and get Thybulle and just skip out on Ben Simmons, and then we get our good defender who's almost just as good as him on the perimeter. He's probably not as good overall because you can't guard bigs, but I don't know. Overall for our team, I think Thybulle would be a better fit than Simmons, and we wouldn't have to give us as much to get him.
Here's the thing too: we went out and got Larry Nance Jr.
Yeah.
Good playmaker at the 4. We have Nurkic, good playmaker at the 5. We have Zeller, good playmaker at the 5. Maybe not playmaker, but like passer. We have 3 bigs already that are good passers for their position. So it's a situation where it's like, I don't think that's as needed as it was before we traded for Larry Nance Jr.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It just opens up too many question marks for me. It just does. Like, it doesn't solve enough to justify all the question marks it opens up for me. And here's the thing, too. If you trade for Ben Simmons, in my opinion, you almost have to trade Yusuf Nurkic. Having Ben Simmons' playmaking, I don't know, he needs the ball in his hands to be effective already. So you're utilizing Dame off the ball, you're putting the ball in Ben Simmons' hands. It's like, if you have 2 guys that need the ball as much as those 2 guys do, the problem is with Simmons is, he needs it to be effective. The problem is with Dame is, he deserves it. It's a good problem to have, but, you have to put the ball in his hands because he's so good with it. It's like, where are you going to fit Nurkic's playmaking abilities at the center spot into that? I don't trust Nurkic's 3-point shot yet. I know he shot the ball well last year, but it wasn't a huge sample. So it's it's almost a situation where, in my opinion, you then have to go out and trade Nurkic, and I feel like he's much more valuable to us than he would be on the trade market. So that's kind of another question mark that opens up is like, okay, do you trade for Simmons and then trade Nurkic, or do you try and pair Simmons next to Nurkic? Because I don't think those two guys pair too well.
Yeah, Nurk would have to that 3-point shooting, small sample size last year would have to really improve to a good sample size being a good shooter. And
it's like you'd just be relegating him to a 3-point center, you know what I mean? And like taking away his playmaking.
Yeah, Simmons would have to become like one of the best cutters in the league, which I guess is possible. But I don't know. Unless he shows that a little more, I have a hard time believing that. But yeah, that's the other thing is I don't want to give up on Nurk, and I know that might be kind of silly, but like I almost value Nurk more than losing CJ, especially in this kind of trade. So I don't that would be tough for me to do unless somehow we got an equivalent level center just that was better at different things than him. But I mean, I don't know who that player is. I've never really been super high on Miles Turner. I know he's a good player, but I don't know. His 3-point shooting is kind of inconsistent. So I don't know if he's necessarily better than Nurk fit wise with that lineup. So, and then we don't really, if we got Simmons, we wouldn't need like a lockdown defender type at that center position either. So I don't know.
Like, if we trade for Simmons, I'd want to start Simmons, Rocco, and Nance together at the 3, 4, and 5. Yeah. So you have that versatility. With Powell with the 2 who can guard 3s and maybe some weaker 4s in the league. Like, so that's the thing. Is I don't know. I asked chat, like, would you trade Nurkic for Miles Bridges if we traded for Ben Simmons? Because you would have to explore, like, that type of trade. A guy who shot 40% from 3 last year, 50% from the field, super athletic, can run the floor. Like, that's the type of guy that would fit into the style of play we'd play with if you started Nance, Rocco, and Simmons 3 through 5. And Bridges is still young, so that's, like, the type of trade that I would be looking at. Pretty much everybody in the group chat was like, no, wouldn't do it. But that's the thing, is, like...
I don't see Charlotte really doing that either, but...
Yeah, but like they need a long-term center, and maybe they value Nurkic. So that's the thing, though, is like, are you going to be able to get enough value back for Nurkic, or are you just going to have to try and make those two fit? It's just, it's another question mark. And here's the thing. A lot of fans are like, oh, I don't care about the question marks. I just don't want to run it back with Dame and CJ, so I want this trade to happen. You cannot make a trade for emotional reasons. You have to make a trade for logical reasons. You can't just emotionally make a franchise-altering trade like this. You have to know it'll make the team better. If you don't know it will make the team better and you're just like, I want to see something else, so you just throw something at the wall and hope it sticks, like, it better have enough upside to justify it. And this doesn't have enough upside to justify it for me with all the question marks it opens up. So that's the thing. I see a lot of fans like thinking emotionally about this. You got to think logically. So too many people I think have completely given up on this backcourt working, and I'm not ready to do that yet. And I think that's a difference in some of the opinions you see.
Yeah. Well, I saw that a lot today, like, oh, if the Blazers don't do this, they're just going to have the same roster they always have or whatever. Like, I mean, we only had Norm for a few months, so he's still fairly new. That's a big change. We traded for Nance. We have a new coach. We have a whole new bench, basically. I don't know. It's not like we have the same exact roster. I know it's not a dramatic change, but I don't know. I feel like we're better than we were last season right now. So I don't know.
And here's the thing. Like Kyle Wilson says, I'd rather go down swinging than watching fastballs pass by me. This is like a ball slightly off the plate that you're using an uppercut swing on, trying to hit it 500 feet. Mm-hmm. That's what this is. I think this offseason could potentially be a double. Mm-hmm. I'd rather hit the double than uppercut at a ball off the plate trying to hit it out of the park. You know what I mean? Yeah, because I think it's much more likely that you at least have some sort of success if you just be solid and foundational.
I don't have a problem with swinging for the fences, but
It has to be the right pitch.
For all the people talking about how good Ben Simmons is, then why is he available? Like, if he was as good as people are saying he is, and his talent and has as much talent as people say, he wouldn't be talked about as not showing up to training camp and the reason why Philadelphia lost in the playoffs last year and all this stuff. Like, he wouldn't be thought of as the problem there if he was that good to where you could just plug him in and that's the answer to all our problems. It creates a whole new set of problems that I don't know if that leads to anything that's better than what we do. Even if he pans out and is the best possible version of himself, I don't know if it really raises our ceiling that much. And that's my problem with taking an all-in move. You want to make a swing for the fences that you know for sure, if it works out to the way you hope it'll work out, that raises your ceiling significantly. And I don't think that this trade necessarily does that. But I mean, like I said, I understand why people think he could be good or he is good, but he hasn't shown that to me on the floor outside of defense. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a tough situation.
It has to be the right pitch. I'm cool with swinging for the fences if it's the right pitch. If it's a changeup right down the middle of the plate that you're sitting on, swing for the fences.
No,
it has to be the right pitch. All right. I shout out to the people in chat appreciating that baseball analogy. I don't think we've ever really talked baseball on the channel, but I mean, I know sports guys, so like. You're not going to blow that fastball past me. I can make a baseball analogy, all right? It just has to be the right pitch. I don't think Simmons is the right pitch. I don't think we'd be top 5 on either side of the court with him. We could be top 10 both sides of the court, but I would rather be I think a top 2 offense next year and 10th to 12th defensively than the 7th rated defense and the 7th rated offense. Because when the playoffs roll around, you can trust the offense to come through if it's running the right system, if it's being coached the right way. All you have to do is up your defensive intensity and compete on that end of the floor, and good things can happen. Whereas if you have a Ben Simmons, you have questions about if he's going to show up in the playoffs. You have questions if, they shut down Dame, who's going to be that guy who can create their own shot. You know what I mean? I don't know. You just have a lot more questions in the playoffs. So that's just where I sit on it. My opinion's not going to change on this chat. What's funny is this is the most divided I've seen our community over a topic, which is cool. I like it. I like it. Good conversations. And I'll read off the donations in a second. I was kind of waiting until the end of this just to read off some of your guys' takes because these last 3 donos are basically takes on the Ben Simmons thing.
And that's why I said in the tweet, come tell us why you disagree with us, and I'm certainly welcome to that. Like I said, I understand if you are completely 100% the opposite of what Tori and I are saying. There's definitely an argument to be made on just improving the talent and hoping that's good enough. I just don't like the fit of it, and that's why it always came down to me, if Toronto was interested in him, send him there and get Siakam.
Just give us Siakam, man.
The rumors are now that Sacramento is not willing to include Halliburton, but we talked about a rumor before where they were around draft time willing to give that up, along with several other good players.
Sacramento makes some sense. I want to talk about this in a sec.
But if you could get Halliburton and Barnes out of this trade instead of Simmons, I would much rather have that. Or even Barnes and Thibault. That's, to me, almost as good, and I think those players fit better on this team. And you get a good defender, but I don't know. It's just something like that to where if there's a team like Sacramento that gets to a point where they get desperate or something and they're giving up close to the value that Morey's wanting, then I think that's when you get back into the conversation, because I think ultimately Philly's going to want CJ over a younger player or another player like that. But I don't know, man. Morey's crazy. I heard today that he talk shut down between him and Golden State because he refused to talk to them unless they include Steph Curry or Klay Thompson. So, like, I don't understand what he's thinking here or why he thinks waiting is the best strategy here, but this is going to blow up in his face unless some team is really stupid at this point.
Yeah, let me thank the donations. Yeah. And I want to talk Sacramento because that's an interesting destination for him. Caleb Pendergraft, $5 dono. Appreciate it. Caleb says, it's too late for me to say no to a CJ Simmons trade. I've already been drawn to the dark side by promises of defensive versatility. And that would be see, like, I can get on board with, like, the defensive versatility there if you have Rocco, Nance, and Simmons on the court. Like, that's a good argument for Ben Simmons. Like, just saying, I just want to get CJ out of here and just try something different isn't a good argument to me. But that is, the defense would be more versatile for sure, and especially with Nance there, that's intriguing because he's a versatile defender as well.
Honestly, I think Philadelphia is asking for CJ and Rocco. Because
I'm not doing that.
We don't really have young players, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't need Nurk, obviously. But so, like, Rocco would be the way to get rid of the 2 first-round picks or whatever that we probably would need to include without having to include those, you know? So, yeah, it's more than likely going to cost us those 2 if we make this trade. And once again, I don't like... I can maybe buy it straight up for CJ and like minimal assets, but if we have to include one of our other players in that, then that becomes a lot worse for me.
Yeah, I'm dropping a poll. I'm just asking if chat would do CJ and Rocco for Simmons. I'm curious to see how that, because that's what it'd have to be.
For the record, Philadelphia would have to include some other small contract.
Just not relevant.
The only guys that it could be are all decent players, so it might not be the worst thing, but yeah. I mean, if we did CJ and Rocco, you almost have to get Thibault back too, in my opinion. So just go all in on defense,
But that's the thing, is like you're trading Rocco and getting back Simmons. Sure, that's a defensive upgrade, but it's not upgrading your defensive versatility as much as people were talking about it doing. You know what I mean? So that's, I don't know. Like, that's probably what it takes. I mean, Morey wants Clay or Steph. And Golden State has 2 lottery picks from a loaded draft. James Wiseman. All their future firsts, other than 2024, I believe. Like, I don't even think Morey would take CJ and Rocco. So that's the thing. Yeah. Like, I just don't think this is... I don't know. I don't think this is feasible. I would not go and bet Portland to get Ben Simmons. At this point. Shout out Shaggy Squid, Australian $5 dono. He says, Ben can play a Draymond Green type role. Will be more impactful than CJ, in my opinion. Stop beating a dead horse and move on from the CJ/Dame backcourt, honestly. See, like that, dude, oh my god. I'm not going to say what I want to say because you donated, bro, but like, that's the sort of like, if you just bring CJ and Dame back, you're just beating a dead horse. If we were beating a dead horse, we would bring Melo back, we'd bring Kanter back, and we'd bring Stoss back. We're not beating a dead horse. We changed out 2 of the 3 biggest issues. So it's going to be different this year. I don't understand why people act like it's going to be exactly the same, man.
Go ahead.
As far as Ben playing the Draymond Green role, Draymond Green, when they were winning championships, was able to knock down a 3-point shot and stepped up his game in the playoffs. Something that Ben Simmons doesn't do. Ben Simmons is allergic to the 3-point shot, and his game declines in the playoffs.
Yeah. So the dead horse thing.
Excuse me.
I mean, you've watched pretty much all our shows, Shaggy Squid. You know we're not opposed to trading CJ. We're not sitting here saying we don't want Ben Simmons because we desperately want CJ and Dame to stay together and finish their careers in Portland. That's not what we've ever said. Like, we're on board if there's a good CJ trade. I mean, like I just said, I would take Halliburton and Harrison Barnes, or Thibault and Harrison Barnes. I would take either of those deals for him. And I'm not even that high on Harrison Barnes. I just like those kind of packages better at this point. And I've never liked Simmons' game. I know he's from your neck of the woods, so you probably have a little higher feelings on him, and I've noticed that a lot on social media. But like, that's fine. Like, it's great that you like Ben Simmons. I don't like him. And like Tori said, Draymond, even if this is the problem with Ben, even if you are put in a situation where you're not a good 3-point shooter, you have to be willing to have the ball in your hands and make plays and either shoot the ball if you need to or make the right play or whatever. And Draymond is really good at that. Ben completely faded away from doing that. So I don't think they're comparable at all, even though, like, theoretically they should be similar. But I just think Draymond is so much smarter and so much, I don't know, like, he will lay it all on the floor. He'll do whatever it takes to win. Whereas Ben is the type who has all the same abilities, probably even more athletic ability and more talent than Green does, but he's afraid to have the ball in that moment, and Green isn't. And I think that makes all the difference in the world.
Yep. I just want to respond to something in chat because this is another argument that I see. When Ben Simmons doesn't shoot, he's still impacting the game in several ways. When CJ's shot isn't falling, he's useless. Here's the thing. CJ is still respected by defenses, and he's still an elite floor spacer, even if his shot isn't falling. Okay? There's not a ton of games where CJ's shot isn't falling at a high enough clip where he's a productive player. He makes plays for other players. He averaged almost 5 assists per game last year. He's a threat that takes defensive game planning. You don't really have to game plan for Ben Simmons on the offensive end, but you have to for CJ McCollum. And CJ's defense, I think, improved last year, and I think Chauncey could potentially make him an average defender. So, I don't know. Like, CJ can impact the game offensively without the ball. Ben Simmons doesn't really do that. So, that argument, I'm not buying.
Yeah.
Shout out Mills Woj, $20 donation. Killer donation, Mills Woj. Appreciate it. Says two things I know... Two things, I know this wouldn't happen, but I think it could work if we hand Dame, Ben, and CJ, and also the Jazz only have one guy who can create off the dribble at a high level. I could see us being like them with Dame and Ben. We can't get Ben without trading CJ. We don't have the salary to do it. So we're automatically trading CJ if we get Ben, so there's no way we can keep CJ and get Ben. We don't have the assets for that anyways.
I mean, technically, once Nance is able to be combined, I guess we could do like Rocco
Nurk. It's combinable right now, so... Yeah,
but it's only 19 days this offseason, so...
But they ain't taking that.
Yeah, but it'd be like Nance, Rocco, and Nurk, and as many picks as we could offer, I guess, after changing our pick because Chicago is unprotected or something. And like, I don't see why Philadelphia takes that. I don't see why we do that. That's tough to make work.
Yeah, but, I mean... He brings up the Jazz, who, like, they only have one guy who can create off the dribble at a high level. I feel like Mike Conley's being a little underrated, but, like, look at them. They were the 1 seed and lost to a Clippers team without Kawhi. Okay? You look at the Sixers. They were the 1 seed. They lost to the 5-seeded Atlanta Hawks. And now they're begging for a guy like CJ who can create his own shot at a high level. You look at those teams, they get into the playoffs, and they underachieve. And that's kind of how I feel like it would go for us. So that's an interesting comparison. You just made my point a little better, Mills Woj. Appreciate it.
Trying to keep up with chat. So... trying to credit whoever said this, but no, I can't find it. I hate when that happens. I can pick
donations. Yeah, go ahead. If you find it, let me know. Shout out Mukhtar20 for the $2 dono. He says, I'd rather run it back, squad finally healthy. There's a lot of intrigue with the squad as is going into next season, and I'd be thrilled. You know, we replace Terry Stotts, man. Like, I'm already thrilled just about that. Getting Chauncey, getting rid of Stotts. Like, I don't know. I feel like we forget how frustrated we were with Terry Stotts last season. And now it's people are, like, going into next season with, like, dread. Aren't you guys excited to watch what Chauncey Billups does? We got Larry Nance. We fixed the backup 4-5 pairing, which was a horrible defensive pairing with Melo and Kanter. We got Nance and Zeller. I mean, that's a really good defensive 4-5 pairing, in my opinion. Just a really good 4-5 backup 4-5 pairing in general. So I don't know. There's a lot of good things going into the season. I'm not going to support a panic trade for emotional reasons for Ben Simmons. If you have legitimate basketball reasons, like I can respect that. But like the people that are just like, oh, I just want CJ God, like I don't agree with that.
Yeah. So I can't find the comment, but someone said like, well, if Dame wants Ben, oh, it was Bando. So Bando says, but if Dame wants Ben, who are you to say otherwise? Well, fine. Like if Dame requests Ben as a measure of him staying in Portland or whatever, I just hope that if Dame does do that and we're not any better next year because of it, I hope that he doesn't then request a trade out when we gave into that. When seemingly as of right now we're being smart about it, and also, I mean, go ahead.
Well,
No,
Dame has said if he's GM, Sasha Pavlovich would still be on the team. So anybody that says that, that's my response to that.
Yeah.
Like, Dame isn't necessarily the best GM.
Yeah, Tim Frazier would be his backup.
Tim Frazier would be his backup, playing
Plumlee would have
25
never
minutes a
gotten
game.
traded for Nurk.
Yep, we wouldn't have Nurkic. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, if it comes down to him staying in Portland, then sure, that factors in. But, like, just because Dame wants a guy doesn't mean that we shouldn't question it, because I said some pretty questionable stuff about the roster in the past, and we would still have, like, a 40-year-old Sasha Pavlovich on the team, so.
So what happens? Dame is, like, basing this season on what happens to him long term, right?
Yeah.
We trade for Ben Simmons. Dame has like a great regular season, so does Ben. We're like the 3rd seed or something, and we go up against, say, like I don't know, the Nuggets again in the playoffs with they're healthy or whatever, and we lose because Ben Simmons in the 4th quarter couldn't hit a free throw and just kept getting fouled, and then he went and hit in the corner and couldn't touch the ball, and we lose. And then Dame, how do you think Dame would feel knowing that we traded for Ben Simmons and he's the reason why we couldn't get out of the first round yet again, and then he leaves because we never get out of the first round? Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
I that's not that far-fetched of a scenario. Like, really. That's what happened last year, so
yeah, I mean, yeah. Shaggy Squid, $5 Australian donor. He says even he wouldn't do CJ and Rocco, and Shaggy Squid has been one of Ben Simmons's biggest fans in terms of us potentially trading for him. And even he wouldn't do CJ and Rocco, and that's what it would take. And I did that poll, and I think like 87% of people said they wouldn't do CJ and Rocco for Ben Simmons. So I'm glad we have some sanity here. Appreciate the $5 Australian donor from Shaggy Squid. Shout out Caleb Pendergraft, $2 dono. He says, I can say no to the trade if Rocco is part of it. So it seems like even the people that really want Ben Simmons don't want to include Rocco in it. So at least there's kind of a stopping point there. And then shout out, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in terms of value, I mean, I don't think it's bad to wait. I mean, it's going to get worse for Philly the longer he stays there, right? He's not going to report. I mean, Morey's saying, "Oh, I don't care. He's part of the team, and he'll be on the team if I don't trade him." You know, all that crap. But like, the more they wait, the worse his value gets. So I actually think until they make a trade, or like I said, if some team is like stupid and meets their demands, I don't think it's that bad to wait. Like, eventually, it could turn into, oh crap, he's not reporting. It's better to just have CJ and no one else than to not have him on the team anymore, right? So if Olshey plays this out, if you do want Ben Simmons, you want this to play out as long as possible, because in my opinion, the longer it plays out, the less we have to give up or could potentially have to give up to get him. And I think, like I said, going back to it, if it's just CJ for Ben straight up, I guess I can live with that as a Blazer fan. I mean, I still wouldn't be happy that that's ultimately the trade we made. And I don't think we would then reship him or whatever. We'd see how that worked out. But in my mind, I think if we're going to get Ben Simmons, the best possible scenario is waiting until a point where they get desperate enough to make it a straight up trade.
Yep. Shout out Neil Olshey for a $2 Australian donor. Here's an Australian Neil Olshey who doesn't want Ben Simmons. He says, guys, I'm not trading for a fast Dwight Howard cloud emoji. I mean, that's funny. I'm not going to call Simmons a fast Dwight Howard, but I like that comparison nonetheless. Shout out Neil Olshey for the $2 Australian dono. And then shout out Dro for $2.
That's not the real Neil Olshey. I'm so disappointed.
No, it's the Australian alter ego Neil Olshey. Maybe we should go and replace Olshey with that guy. Shout out Dro for the $2 dono. Says Ben is Garbo. People need to drop the pipe. Drop the meth pipe. I don't know if I get demonetized for saying that on stream. We will see. Shout out Dro for the $2 dono. I'm not gonna go that hard for the people that like legitimately want Ben Simmons. I'm not gonna go that hard at them because
he's not garbage. But
yeah, like I can kind of understand some of the reasoning, even though I disagree with it. But yeah, I mean we're kind of on the same page, Dro. Like I'm not a fan of him. I wouldn't say he's garbage either, but he's not as good as a lot of people act like he is.
Yeah. So Reese kind of had a good point. He said he's best as a secondary playmaker, right, on a team.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is he can't be a secondary playmaker. He has to be the primary playmaker.
Yep.
So those are always the toughest guys. Like Minnesota has this problem with D'Angelo Russell. I'm trying to think of some other examples. CJ is probably in that category as well.
I don't know. CJ's like elite off the ball though as a spot up shooter. And
yeah, that's true. Like, yeah, he can play that role well, but I know there's some other examples, but I'd actually put Westbrook in that category too. Like he's that's the problem. Like he could put up major stats as the main ball handler or whatever, but you're probably never winning anything with him in that situation. So
yeah, the only way it's possible is if you have LeBron and AD, and even then, like it's gonna. I don't know. I don't think Russell Westbrook was a good pickup for them.
And this is the problem. It's not saying that Ben Simmons is garbage or he's a terrible player. It's just his skill set is that of lead guard on a team offensively. And I don't think he's good enough or mentally doesn't have the basketball IQ to lead a team. So you're always stuck in that situation where he's not good as the secondary guy, but he's not good enough as the primary guy. So I don't think a team can ever be good enough to win a title with him on the roster. And that's not, once again, that doesn't mean he sucks and is terrible. It's just his skill set is one of those weird fits where it doesn't always pan out. DeRozan's like this too. Like it's just like there's not a lot of teams that he fits on. Like that's why I think the Bulls getting him is really overrated because I don't know, it's just a weird fit on any team. And
DeRozan was known for choking in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So is Westbrook. So is Simmons. They're all known for that.
I mean, Dame's been kind of known for that.
Yeah, but it's like Dame's getting trapped and the floor setup is terrible. And but Dame has had insane offensive playoff series that Westbrook could only dream of. That DeMar DeRozan could only dream of. Like, none of those guys have had a series as good as Damian Lillard had it in the first round last year against the Denver Nuggets. You know what I mean? But that's like a different issue. Those guys struggle in the playoffs because they're not good enough to be your primary guy, and they don't fit as your secondary guy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all three like that.
And for all those people saying we're way overvaluing CJ and stuff like that, we're not saying CJ's the answer either. Like we're fully on board if we trade him. Like we've said many times, it's just if Philly really wanted a package for Simmons, I would explore every possible third team avenue because maybe there is a deal that Mora is just being stupid with like Minnesota or Sacramento or Golden State or Toronto or whatever. You could list any team. Cleveland. There's so many teams that have seemingly been interested in Ben Simmons. And then they've kind of been turned off by the fact that Morey is just demanding every possible asset or whatever and just being ridiculously frugal. So I would explore all those options first, but then you'd have a lot of people saying, and that if we weren't the ones that got Ben Simmons in the trade, that our part of it sucked or whatever, and we just facilitated some other team getting better or whatever. But I'm all for trading CJ to Philly. I don't really want Simmons. I'd almost rather have Tobias Harris than Ben Simmons. I don't really want Tobias Harris at this point either, but I almost rather have him.
Both those guys. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah. I don't know. Like, just find a way to get Pascal Siakam, man. That's the guy I'm always going to come back to this season, is find a way to get Pascal Siakam. Shoot, even if we traded for Ben, I'd be like, okay, can we trade for Ben? Or can we trade Ben for Siakam at the deadline? Like,
yeah, that's my problem. If we trade for him, I think we're stuck with him. Whereas if it's a three-way trade, that's why I want it to be a multi-team trade to begin with, because I feel like once we get him, it'd be really hard to just then trade him or whatever. And yeah,
I feel like Toronto's plan is to pair Simmons with Scotty Barnes with Siakam and just have a bunch of like playmaking, ball handling forwards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that seems to kind of be their strategy. And here's the thing, like, everybody loves Ujiri. This is a little side point. What has he done that's particularly good since trading for Kawhi Leonard?
I mean, he won a championship, so it's hard to question.
Yeah, like the Kawhi Leonard trade won them a championship. But like, in terms of just his moves since trading for Kawhi Leonard, what has he done that's well? He traded Norman Powell for Gary Trent Jr. Norman Powell's a better player, and then Norman Powell got a better contract in free agency, and Gary Trent Jr. can leave after 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was a big mistake to draft Scotty Barnes over Jalen Suggs, and in Summer League, Jalen Suggs looked phenomenal. And I know it's just Summer League, but I think that's going to end up being a mistake. I don't know. Ujiri has not been particularly good since trading for Kawhi Leonard, right? Now, the Kawhi Leonard trade won him a championship, so that trade looks great, right? But since then, it's just like, that's like the one trade that really made him, in my opinion. And he has other good trades, other good moves as well. Siakam was a good pick, etc. But it's just like, I don't know, man. Now his plan, like, seemingly is to just get a bunch of ball-handling, playmaking fours, whether or not they can shoot or not. I don't think that would work. Like, I don't like that. So, I don't know, man. That's just a little side note.
I mean, he made that year and the year before, he made a bunch of good moves, including getting Danny Green in that same trade for Kawhi, trading for Marc Gasol at the deadline, trading for Ibaka the year before. He made several good moves.
I mean, he traded Valanciunas. Like, I don't know. Was Marc Gasol really that much better than Valanciunas at the time to justify that? Like, it helped him win a championship, so I can't question it, but it's a half-year rental. Like, I don't know. If they don't win that championship, like if KD's healthy and then Kawhi leaves, Ujiri's being looked at is probably nowhere near as good as he is looked at right now. You know what I mean? Like, if KD's healthy and Golden State wins the championship, Kawhi leaves, Gasol ends up being a rental, basically. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not as high on Masai as other people are. Yeah. That's just a little side point. Because everybody thinks he's like the best GM in the league, and I think he's gotten a little bit overrated.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind saying that. I just think, yeah.
So
it's hard to change history.
That's just a little side note. We don't gotta go in on that. Shout out to Dro for a $5 dono. He refutes us saying that Ben isn't Garbo. He says, yes, he is. He's a good defender. Can't shoot. Can't perform under pressure. He plays scared in the NBA. He will make us worse. I don't trust him. I mean, he's just, like, he's really, really good defensively, so I think that raises his status above garbage. Like, garbage to me is Mario Hezonja. Yeah, I'm not going to say he's garbage, but it depends on how you define garbage, you know? We could argue semantics here, but, I mean, we're in the same boat in terms of not wanting him for sure. Appreciate the dono, Dro. I'm just going to keep arguing with Dro so that he donates. Just kidding. But,
so,
I mean, go ahead.
Adam and Eve had a question. I think you responded to it in chat, but I just want to put that over
Go
the air. So he said, why would we want Simmons after he said he doesn't want to play for us because he's a young socialite? Um, so I don't know. There's been conflicting rumors about that. His agent is definitely putting out that he wants to play anywhere he's traded to. Like he doesn't care. He'll play anywhere. But there's also rumors that he only wants to go to one of like 3 California teams, not including Sacramento, which the other 2 LA teams are not happening. But see, this goes back to what Olshey says about free agency, and it's something I 100% agree with him. You don't want guys who are more concerned about the party and the lifestyle of the NBA versus about getting down to business and playing basketball. And Olshey's always said that in free agency, that's tough, finding the guys who care more about winning and fit and just being in the gym and playing ball versus whether Portland has a nightlife and stuff. And Tori and I got into an argument about a month ago about this too. So
No, I don't think that's exactly what the argument was based on, but
it was about him saying that out loud or whatever, not selling Portland enough, or what I think it was.
I just said I didn't trust him because I don't think he particularly cares for Portland as a city, so I don't trust him to necessarily just sell living here. You know what I mean? So,
but
let's not rehash that.
But yeah, I agree that if you have a guy who is more concerned about the nightlife or what he's doing after the game than what's happening during the game, those are the kind of players that aren't going to win championships most likely, and not going to help us get to that point too. So I agree. I think a little bit of that's being overblown. I think he'll be fine wherever he's traded to. I mean, heck, he even said he'd play for Cleveland or something, but I just don't like relying on those kind of guys who aren't necessarily, and obviously he's not putting in the work if he hasn't fixed his jumper at all or isn't willing to shoot, or is not working on it the right way after all these years.
Yep. Shout out to Caleb Pendergraph, $2 dono. He says you didn't mention the nurse hire for Ujiri. I said since the Kawhi trade. That happened before. Appreciate the $2.
That's only been 2 years, dude.
I mean, yeah, I'm just saying, like, recently, I haven't really liked what Ujiri is doing. So, that's a side point. And yeah, that was a risk. If it didn't work out, it wouldn't be looked at as a good move. I mean, you look at the Jimmy Butler move for Philadelphia. That they took Toronto to a Game 7 to the wire, right? But since they lost, it's not looked at as like some great move, the Jimmy Butler trade. So I don't know. Like,
dude, that team was so stacked, though. I don't know how they lost.
I know, but like, see, like it's just like there's some circumstance there at play. So yeah, I mean, like one bad bounce on that game-winning shot for Kawhi could be the difference between how Ujiri's looked at. I don't know. There's a lot of circumstance. We don't really have the time to really go in depth on that, though. Let's talk about Sacramento, if you want.
Yeah.
I think, and you guys know by now I'm not high on Ben Simmons, but if I'm Sacramento, I would maybe offer De'Aaron Fox. And in a vacuum, I'm not trading Fox straight up for Simmons, but they have so many guards. Davion Mitchell, I think, will be a starting caliber point guard. Tyrese Halliburton, I think, will be a starting caliber shooting guard. I think those two guys will make up what could potentially be the best defensive backcourt in the league in their prime. I feel like you just surround those guys with elite defenders, and that could potentially end up being the best defensive team in the league. At one point, like in the future, Ben Simmons kind of fits their timeline a little bit better. And then, like, both those guys can shoot the ball. And I like Halliburton playing off the ball. I like Mitchell off the ball as well as with the ball in his hands. And it's just sort of a situation where, like, you have so many guards that maybe it would make sense for them. So, I don't know. I don't know if I'd give up Fox if I were them. But, like, that's the type of team that Simmons makes a little bit more sense for, and a potential trade package makes more sense for. Because Fox would be great next to Embiid in Philadelphia. Like, Fox would be a great get for them. And he's young. So, that He's locked up for multiple years. So that would be a great trade for Philly. If you're Philly, you absolutely trade Simmons for De'Aaron Fox straight up if you can. If you're Sacramento, see, that's a team that makes a little bit more sense. They're kind of, they've been trying to make the playoffs for a long time. And maybe they don't get to contention, but it's like they're trying to make the jump to playoff team. We are trying to make the jump to contender. So that there's a little bit of difference there. So if I had to bet on a team trading for Ben Simmons right now, if Simmons gets traded, I would put my money down on the Sacramento Kings.
I don't think they're going to be willing to include Fox, though.
But even if it's like Halliburton and, the trade package they offered before, even if it's not Fox, I think they could have a deal that could potentially get it done.
Yeah, just for people who don't remember, so I think it was, what was it? Was it Barnes or Hield? One of them, Halliburton and the number 9 pick, which turned out to be Davion Mitchell for Simmons, is apparently the rumored package they offered prior to the draft.
Yeah, I feel like Sacramento would be the team that would maybe sell out in if it's not Fox, it would probably be Halliburton. And if you're talking Halliburton and Barnes and a bunch of first-round picks, that's intriguing for Philadelphia, I think.
Yeah, and if Philly would rather have CJ, man, they could get those picks. We'd get Halliburton and Barnes, and Philly gets CJ.
Yeah.
And maybe have to include Ant in that one because they're getting Hallie back.
Yeah. It's just a situation where I feel like Sacramento would be a team that would be more willing to sell out for Ben Simmons. And I don't think they'd necessarily give up Fox, but there were some rumblings that Fox wasn't necessarily super happy there. It was like whispers. It wasn't super loud talk, but there was whispers about Fox not being too happy. So, I don't know. That's just a team that might make sense. I have no idea. I don't know. Morey's just overplaying this. It's almost a situation where I think they go into next season and Ben Simmons ain't playing for them. I think that's just as likely as anything. But he's still on the roster. I don't know. Morey has overvalued him so much it's hard to get a read. So, if I had to put money down, I would probably put it down on Sacramento. I don't think it's necessarily super likely, but I would like my odds if I was betting on Sacramento compared to the odds on Portland, which is 2-1. I feel like Sacramento is more likely to trade for Ben Simmons than Portland is. Sleeper team, Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah. See, with Sacramento, they still have all their future first, so they could offer the Harden package if they wanted to, and they have the contracts of Hield and Barnes to match salary. I don't think Barnes makes a lot of sense for Philly because of, I don't know, he's kind of similar to Tobias Harris, so you're kind of duplicating that. So, I don't think they give up on Fox. For those that know that, I haven't been super high on Fox in the past, but I think they'd be dumb to trade Fox for Simmons. I'd rather just keep Fox in that situation. But the team I think to look out for is Minnesota. But the problem is I don't see them giving up any of the players they need to give up to make it happen.
Yeah.
And the one player that they could give up to make it happen, D'Angelo Russell, like we talked about a few minutes ago, is just a weird fit anywhere. So
I don't think that's good enough.
I don't think he's good enough, like Russell in 4 firsts or whatever. And that's what's also weird about the Morey package or the Harden package that Morey wants is why do they've said they don't want picks in the past. So they want players to win a championship. So I don't understand why they would want the Harden package and get a bunch of picks when they've said that that's not what they're looking for in future.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out Greg Hughes, investigates $5 dono. He says, donation wave, everyone. Hello, Greg Hughes. He says, I like Ben Simmons a lot. The shooting issue is weird. Like Charles Barkley's golf swing. He fixed that, by the way. I think it's a little different between Charles Barkley's golf swing and Ben Simmons' 3-point shot. But if you want to put stock in Ben Simmons fixing his jumper because Charles Barkley fixed his golf swing, then, I mean, go ahead. I'm not going to tell you no. Appreciate the dono from Greg Hughes Investigates. I want to touch on Cleveland because I said they're kind of my sleeper team for him. Cleveland hasn't really made a whole lot of sense this offseason. Getting Lauri Markkanen doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I could see them packaging Colin Sexton, Kevin Love, and a couple picks for Ben Simmons. I feel like Daryl Morey would be like the one GM who might value Kevin Love a little bit, right? Oh, it's a star name. You know, Morey loves his star names. And then you get a guy who averaged 24 points per game last year who's young, who can create his own shot, and then you can get a couple picks. Like, that's kind of my sleeper package for Ben Simmons at this point.
Yeah. I mean, dude, if that genius, if he ends up with the meringue special, the Love and Sexton for Simmons, oh my god.
That'd be funny. They would have to include Love to match salary. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they could do like Rubio, Sexton, and Mobley or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that could work.
But I don't know why Philly would do that.
I mean, Sexton would kind of be like CJ, I guess.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know. And you could probably sell Sexton as just like a young guy who averaged 24 points per game. I just feel like Morey would be like, okay, yeah, Kevin Love, that's a star name. That could make me look better in this trade package. You know, I get a 24 point per game young scorer and I get Kevin Love. And I don't know. It just seems like a Morey-ish package. That would be interesting from Cleveland's standpoint. I mean, I don't think that backcourt works. So I don't know. That would be Cleveland, like, just not making any sense, but I guess you could hypothetically, like, place Simmons at the 3, and then, I don't know who you start at the 2 there, but you have Simmons, Mobley, and Jared Allen 3, 4, 5, and then Lauri Markkanen off the bench. That would just
Garland,
be...
right?
Yeah, and Garland, the starting point guard, of course, so... I mean, that could be a team that could maybe push for a playoff spot. Like, defensively... I think Mobley will be pretty solid at the 4 right off the bat, and then you have Jared Allen, who's a really good rim protector, and Simmons. I feel like that could be a top half defense. And then offensively, I feel like it could be about average, maybe. Like, that would be kind of a middle-of-the-pack team. I don't know. That's like my sleeper package for Ben Simmons.
I just don't see anyone wanting Love.
Yeah, but it's like, see, here's the thing. Any package you look at, it'll just be like, that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, there is not a package that you can come up with where it's like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
With how much more he values Simmons. Like, it's hard to find a package that I'd say yes to. So it's like, we're just kind of like, assuming Simmons gets traded, something like that would have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of just like my guess as to like a dark horse team and a dark horse trade package. Like, that's the best I could do at this point because I don't know what's going to happen.
Would you do Barnes and Thibault for CJ?
No. I don't. No, absolutely not. I don't like Barnes that much. Like, he's an average defender. He's not a good defender, in my opinion.
He's above average, but...
he's not... I don't know, he's not super quick laterally. Like, he's a guy that can defend 4s pretty well as a small ball 4, but, like, he doesn't have as much versatility as people think he does. Maybe Reese will come in with, like, a versatility stat and say, well, you're wrong, he guards 5 positions. But he's...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know, you seem to... I don't know. You have these, like, set things in your head, I think, that...
Well, I mean, I have my opinions on players. I mean, he might be a better defender than I'm giving him credit for. I'm not saying, like, oh, yeah, he's definitely not. I'm saying I don't think he's a particularly good defender. And offensively, he's just, I don't know, like, he's okay, but he's not a guy that I would count on you'd run into the same problems as, like, in terms of only having one player that could create their shot at a high level, because I don't think Harrison Barnes can create a shot at a high level. Like, maybe he could be kind of solid, but I'm talking about, like, at a high level. Like, somebody you could count on to consistently do that in the playoffs against some of the top defenses in the league. I can trust CJ to do that. I would not be able to trust Harrison Barnes to do that. Or definitely not Matisse Thybulle, so you'd kind of run into that issue. So I wouldn't do that. Would you do that?
I don't know. I'm starting to be open to it.
I thought you said you didn't like Harrison Barnes.
I know. I just if we're worried about defense, I just think I'd rather have that kind of trade than.
But we're not worried about defense, are we?
I'm just saying if it came down to that or Simmons. Yeah.
That or Simmons. Okay, that's a different conversation than that for CJ. I would probably just at that point I'd probably just rather bite the bullet and take Simmons. I don't.
If I got Halliburton instead of Thybulle, that would change your mind though.
It's just like, does that make us better?
He could be a creator.
Dame probably wouldn't like that. Like, and Dame probably wouldn't think that makes us better. And I'm not sure that would make us better. So you're kind of playing with fire there for no particular reason. Like, it doesn't accomplish enough to, like, justify the risk. The risk versus reward is not favorable for that, in my opinion.
What if we got Halliburton, Thybulle, and Barnes?
Oh my goodness, you're just gonna keep pushing that until I say it. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I don't think... if Dame was on board with it, like, maybe. I just don't think Dame would be on board with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trading the best player in the deal. Like, I don't want to be the team trading the best player in the deal.
I don't know if CJ is necessarily better than Simmons.
No, I'm saying Barnes. You said Barnes, Thybulle, and Halliburton.
Yeah. But the best player in the deal would be
Simmons. The best player in the deal in terms of, like, what we're giving up for what we're getting back.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't want to be trading...
I think Halliburton could be better than CJ eventually.
Yeah, but, like, that's the thing. That's a long-term play, and it's kind of like we got to have a successful season this year.
It would also put us under the tax.
I can't get on board with that because I don't think Dame would like it, and we're not getting a player back as good as CJ, and I feel like if anything, we need to add higher caliber talent than CJ.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to find a higher caliber talent-wise than Halliburton in a trade like this, and Thybulle's an elite defender, and then Barnes just like a solid.
Thybulle's an elite defender, but offensively, like, he's not... I don't know, man. I don't know. You're trading CJ for role players. The thing is what? Are you going to run a 10-man rotation there?
Halliburton is not a role player.
He's not a fringe all-star yet, though. And you know I love Halliburton, but he ain't CJ caliber yet.
Well, I mean, it was rookie year, but I mean, I don't know. I watched a game against Golden State where he just completely torched them in the fourth quarter, and
yeah, but that's one game, one quarter.
No, I know. I'm just saying. Like, I watched him as a rookie do that, pretty like on several occasions, and
I mean, yeah,
he shot
good.
41% from three as a rookie, 47% from the field.
I'm not saying he's not good, but he's not CJ.
As good as CJ.
I mean, yeah, but in terms of like creating their own shot at a high level, I'd take CJ 100 times out of 100 at this point. And I think Halliburton can get there, but he's like, that's the one area of his game where CJ has him far beat. Yes, he'll probably take a bit of a jump in his second season. It's just like, we gotta have a successful season next year, and I can't justify trading CJ for like somebody that we're hopeful can make a jump to justify it. Even though, like, there's a chance that he could. You know what I'm saying? So, and I don't think it would make Dame happy. So that's just kind of a non-starter for me at that point.
But I think, I mean, you have that, and you have a good defender, and you have a solid to a slightly above average player more than a capable starter in Barnes. I just think that's a lot of firepower you add for not much of a cost. I don't know.
Like, do we need more offensive firepower with this roster as is? Like, I don't know. Like,
I just said it's defensively. I think it's.
Or, I don't know. Like, you're confused. I'm getting confused now. I wouldn't do that trade.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that trade. I'm not trading CJ unless we're getting a similar caliber player back who's a forward or a better caliber player.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't do either for me. And that's just kind of been like my rule for a CJ trade from the start of the offseason. Like, and you know I love Halliburton. Halliburton is probably one of my top 5 favorite non-Blazers. I love Tyrese Halliburton. I'm just not super high on Harrison Barnes.
Sure, says so Ben Simmons.
Like, at that point, like, I don't know. Like, Dame would be happier with Ben Simmons. And I don't want Ben Simmons. But at that point, I would probably take Ben Simmons over that.
See, this might be crazy to some, but unfortunately, situation is going to prevent this right now. But if Halliburton was in a situation like CJ or on a different team where he wasn't clouded by having all those guards, I think he would have a better season than CJ this next year.
No, I can't get. He's not a good enough shot creator to be able to justify that.
I think he is.
I don't think he's there yet. I absolutely
he's a
don't
better
think he's
passer, I think. So.
I mean, he averaged 5.3 assists per game in 30 minutes last year. I feel like, but here's the thing: is like in a Chauncey Billups offense, I really like CJ and its catch and shoot ability.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a better shooter than Tyrese Halliburton next season. I think he is.
I mean,
I don't trust Halliburton. I don't trust giving Halliburton the ball in the playoffs and him coming through. We haven't seen anywhere near enough, in my opinion, to justify like him being the second guy that you give the ball to and he's going to come through. So it's sort of a situation.
Didn't do that for us either last year.
Yeah, but like but CJ can do that, and I don't think Halliburton can do that yet. I mean, whatever, dude. Like I don't think Halliburton has a better season next year than CJ.
Like he's not going to on Sacramento. I'll make that clear. There's too many. He's stuck behind Hield and Fox, and that's just. And then they draft Mitchell, which is a good pick. It's just it's a tough situation for all 4 of those guys.
I mean, like I think CJ is basically an all-star caliber player next year. I think Halliburton is a touch below fringe all-star. That's where I
okay, but you're also getting Barnes and Thibault.
Yeah, but like you're downgrading your high-end talent. I just don't think that makes us better. I just don't, and that's the thing is like if you're playing all 3 of those guys, you have a 10-man rotation. Like in the playoffs, Thibault probably isn't playing. Are you starting? I mean, I assume you're starting Barnes, but I would rather have Rocco in Nance over Barnes. So in the playoffs, like how many minutes is Barnes going to play if you're playing Nance and Rocco ahead of him, which I would.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I see the argument either way.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's just, and then, like, the cherry on top is just Dame I don't think Dame would like it. So that's my reasons for saying no. I assume you would do that.
Like I said, I think Halliburton is almost as good as CJ and will be better than him soon. So I'm really
even
high
if Dame didn't like it, would you do it?
Well, Dame wouldn't like it maybe initially, but once we were better, I think he would like it.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like if we did that, there's a chance Dame would ask out.
Like he'd like it initially because we got us more talent, but when we're not any better, does that necessarily make him want to stay?
I guess it just comes back to I don't think it makes us better.
It would be super risky, but it's also raises the ceiling a lot more if Halliburton develops.
Yeah, I don't think it does. I mean, not this year. Like long term, like next year, okay, like the ceiling is higher. The potential ceiling is higher. I'm just not, and I love Halliburton. I'm just not as high as you going into next year. The top 100 players series, you guys will see where I rank Halliburton in comparison to CJ. But Halliburton will be a top 100 player next year.
He did get hurt. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I mean, you see guys like their sophomore season maybe take a little bit of a step back. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure. I don't trust that he's a 41% shooter. Like, yet.
Oh.
He shot 41% last year, but he played 58 games. Like, it's a decent sample, but we've seen guys shoot the ball really well their rookie year and then take a slight step back.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'll have to wait and see,
So
but at this point...
take a step back.
Okay. Would you bet on him shooting over 41% from three next year?
I don't know if I would bet on it, but I think he is an NBA 40% shooter. I've always thought that. And he shot over 40% in college both years, and that included several Dame-style deep threes. He was shooting a lot of NBA-level threes back then, so...
I mean, I think there's a 50-50 chance he's below 40%. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I mean, we're just arguing, like, very, like, finite things here. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Don't make me root against him next year, bro, because he's one of my favorite guys. I just think CJ next season is
arguing against him. I shouldn't.
Bro, I think CJ next season, like CJ has the chance to be like a 26-5 guy on really good efficiency if he's getting more catch and shoot threes. Yeah. Like you look at the way CJ played at the start of next season, at the start of last season. Like I think there's a chance he could be that for an entire season. So I don't know. I'm not ready to give. I still like CJ, man. I'm not ready to give him up for that. Like, I'm down to go into next season with CJ. And it's funny because, like, I feel like I was less on board to run it back going into next season when when the offseason started. And now I'm just like, screw it. Let's do it with CJ. that's I don't know. I'm not anti-Halliburton, Caleb Pantercliff. I will never be anti-Halliburton, man.
You sure sound anti-Halliburton.
Bro, I'm not. I like Halliburton. I just am not. I'm high on Halliburton. I'm just not that high. I'm higher than most. And you're higher than me. You know what I mean? We're both high. You're just a different degree of high. You're very, very high.
And I want him out of Sacramento. That would be such a win for the Sixers if they got him.
Yeah. They need to trade at least Healed. They didn't even trade Healed, man. I can't hear you anymore. Oh. Connection down. Somebody's gonna clip that high thing.
Again?
Yeah, I think you're good. I don't know what that was. Okay. But yeah, somebody's gonna clip me saying you're really high, Eric. So there's a clip for Reese's collection. But they didn't even trade Healed, bro. Like it's a mess there. At least they traded the lawn right. What'd you say?
Trevor's funny. So are we talking about trading Fox instead of Halliburton, and now he's being too low on Halliburton?
Yeah, like I'm high on Halliburton. I would trade Fox to keep Halliburton and then bring on Simmons, man. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I like Halliburton, man.
Gavin says might be able to change Simmons' mindset. Dame might be able to.
Dame ain't fixing that.
I've said this all along. You can be a leader. You can help someone's confidence. You can get him to play within a team. You know, like the most famous example is, you know, Michael Jordan with Dennis Rodman or whatever, you know. But they're always going to show their true colors when it matters. So Simmons gets the ball 1 minute left in a fourth quarter, and he's about to get fouled and has to go to the free throw line or has to make a play or something with the ball. It doesn't matter if Dame's been the best mentor ever and has gotten him to have the most self-esteem of his entire life in terms of basketball skills and stuff like that. When he's in that moment, game on the line, if he's not mentally there himself, that's something you have to be able to figure out yourself. And quite frankly, I don't think any player can change another player's mindset in those situations. It's got to come from within. So he can mask that certainly throughout the regular season, but I would just be scared that once the game was on the line, that Simmons would go right back to where he was last year.
Yeah, like, his issues are so deep-rooted to me. Like, they're deep-rooted psychological issues. We can't trade for a guy hoping Dame is going to be a freaking sports psychologist. He's a leader of basketball players, bro. Like, you can get a guy whose confidence maybe wavers, and maybe he just needs to believe in himself as a player. That's different than a guy who, in my opinion, and Ben Simmons, has deep-rooted psychological issues, bro. Like, it's beyond just, like, having confidence that wavers a little bit. He needs a great sports psychologist, bro. But, like, apparently he's seen a sports psychologist. Or has he seen a sports psychologist? It was either he had seen a sports psychologist or he refused to see a sports psychologist. Either way, if he's seen a sports psychologist and that sports psychologist had no positive impact on Ben Simmons, and Damian Lillard isn't going to. And if Ben Simmons refused to see the sports psychologist, then he's not going to embrace Dame trying to help him. If he wouldn't even get help himself. You have to have a guy who wants to be better. You can't do it for them. Dame can't do it for Ben Simmons. So everybody that says, Dame will fix him. He's not going to fix him. He's not going to be able to... Like, that's so above Dame's pay grade. And Dame's a great leader, but that's not what it's going to take to fix his psychological approach to the game of basketball. Especially in the playoffs, when the pressure is the highest, and he's going to revert back to a baseline in terms of how he approaches the game mentally, and that baseline is very, very low. So, I don't know. Everybody says that. I'm just like, you're putting way too much on Dave, man. He's already the best player on the team, has to basically lead the entire offense, lead the team, and then you want him to be a psychologist.
Sherman says we'll revisit this conversation when Ben Simmons averages 18 and 9 on 60% shooting in the finals and clamps KD when Portland wins the championship.
No, actually, Anthony Simons is going to average 30 a game. That's about just as realistic.
Well, honestly, though, I mean, I will gladly admit that I was wrong about the trade and that it was a brilliant move and all that stuff. Like, Tori and I aren't above admitting when we're wrong. So if it does work out and we win a championship because of a Ben Simmons trade, I would gladly welcome that and gladly take a championship over having to admit that I was wrong. So I have no problem with that.
The thing is we haven't really had to admit we're wrong too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've been pretty on point.
The major example is LaMelo Ball, maybe, but yeah.
But, like, that's like a draft prospect from the NBL. You know what I mean? Like, we'll be honest. When it comes to this team and when it comes to players who are already in the NBA, like, we have been pretty spot on. So,
you think every
trust
player's
myself.
defense is below average or something? No, just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was not knowledgeable enough about Derrick Jones Jr., and I'll admit that. In terms of, like, him being a good defender, I thought he was pretty meh. So there's, like, a few players in the NBA where I'm like, huh?
Gabe says we're wrong for questioning Mikal for Keldon Johnson.
I still don't buy that, man. I saw some stat like if Mikal shot at least 10 times a game, the Suns would have won 68 games this year out of an 82 sample. So I don't know, it's something like that. Like, Mikal ain't a guy who's going to go create his own shot, and I feel like he gets knocked for that, where it's like, you gotta design. I feel like that's the one thing Monty could have done better, is design more sets that feature Mikal getting shots or, like, straight line drives to the rim, because I feel like Mikal's pretty good when he gets that, and he was insanely efficient last year. I mean, Keldon opened my eyes playing some Olympic basketball. We'll see how that translates. Like, he could make a jump. I really like Mikal, man. But that's just a whole different conversation.
Zach says, how many gold medals does Mikal have? How many finals appearances does Keldon have?
Yeah, exactly. There you go, man. I mean, Mikal led the Suns to the finals, man. So. But, no, honestly, Keldon Johnson might be my favorite for most improved player this year. Like, he's got a chance to be the number one guy there in San Antonio now.
Thomas Doransky, I don't know if that was a typo. Was Keldon poop in the bubble? Or did he... That's not cool if you poop in the bubble.
Oh my goodness, this show's going off the rails, man. We gotta wrap it up soon. Shout out
That's
Caleb
the Mickey
Pendergraft.
Mouse.
Oh no, dude. Don't read off anything Zach says. Alright, that's rule number one for this for any of our streams is don't read off Zach's comments.
But dude, if you're stuck in the bubble, you can't be doing that.
What are you saying?
All right, just read out the donos.
Somebody fix Eric. Caleb Pendergraft dropped two $5 donos. Appreciate it, Caleb. The first. Here's something to get your mind back on track, Eric. The first dono message says, "Did you see Meringue's comments on the Dame and Simmons working? Because Dame and CJ worked. I can't believe someone would make that argue." Is Caleb Pendergraft drunk? You good, Caleb? So, no, I did not see Meringue's comments because I try not to see Meringue's comments because I like to listen to... I'm not even going to go there. We're trying to be professional this season, right? So, I'm not even going to respond. Sorry, Caleb. Appreciate the dono. But, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the takeaway from all the arguments that come from... him is I can't believe this is really an argument. So he said he ran out of characters. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know, man. Just let that guy be a small YouTuber now. That's all I'm gonna say. Shout out Caleb Pendergraft for the second $5 donor. He says, "I really appreciate that you two are willing to admit being wrong when you guys make the wrong call. Too many people in this world are unable to." I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I don't know. It's a little easier when you're right on a lot. I'll say that. But, you know, I was wrong about Derrick Jones Jr. being a poor defender. What else was I wrong on about the team this past year, Eric?
Not much.
Chat. I will admit that I was wrong about it. I need thoughts here. Appreciate the dono, Caleb. I don't know, man. I mean, what was I wrong about?
I don't know. But for the record, I can't stand the people who like delete tweets and try to act like they never said something they obviously said or implied before, then say like those weren't my exact words or whatever, even though they obviously were trying to say that. So, but yeah, I will gladly admit when I'm wrong if I'm wrong, and that's one of the things. One of the reasons I don't want to make a trade is because I want to see just how much coaching matters. And this is almost the perfect opportunity to actually see if this roster is actually good or if this roster is just really bad and poorly constructed, like so many people, the cliche thing is to say. I happen to be very high on the roster. I think it's going to be good. I think it has been good, and the talent on the roster hasn't been the problem, even though on the surface level, when you say, oh, he hasn't had a second All-Star or whatever, like that kind of stuff is dependent on maximizing the roster, and I just don't think that's happened. So I'd love to be proven wrong or right about that and definitively know how much coaching matters. So if Phillips is an all-world coach and is doing all the things we asked for and this team still sucks, I'll gladly take the L on that. But I'll also gladly...
Bro, that ain't gonna happen, bro. Yeah. Like, I'm so confident that ain't gonna happen. We're good. We're good. You can't be worse than Stotts was last year. So, I mean, I'll just sit here and just say, yeah, Chauncey's gonna be better, okay? If we're the 28th ranked defense, Eric, Chauncey was better.
That's true.
Caleb Pendergraft says that I was potentially wrong about the Blazers signing Melo in 2019. I don't think I really was. The only thing that I was off on is Melo's three-point shooting. Like, he was a better three-point shooter than I expected. But in terms of every other area of his game being below average, I am still on board with that. And I think the stats back that up too. So we haven't had a Melo argument in a while, Eric. You gonna miss those? You gonna miss Block Boy sparking some Melo arguments this season?
I do miss fans that are passionate.
Not
I
Melo
mean,
fans.
a lot of them were annoyingly passionate, but I mean, shout out to people like Blockboy who were in here for every post game stream for pretty much the whole season until he banned him.
Yeah.
But I mean, whether I like those guys or not, I respected the fact that they tuned in no matter what happened for the most part. So
Well, I mean, he's gonna be watching Lakers
yeah,
streams somewhere
he happens
now.
to think Melo is like gonna average like 20 a game for them.
Oh
Yeah,
my goodness,
that
man!
was
I'm so glad to be done with them, dude. We're going into the season without Stotts, without Melo stands, without the Melo and Canner pairing. I'm chilling, man. I'm chilling. Eric said I said that Melo would help. See, I did say Melo would help when we signed him because our alternative was Mario Hezonja or Anthony Tolliver. So I did say he would help compared to those guys, and that was true.
I mean, he did start. He hit a bunch of clutch shots in the bubble.
I mean, he was insane in the bubble. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? For sure, you know? So, like, but that's the thing. Like, I always said, like, okay, he could have a good game if he's hot. The problem is over the course of the entire season, the only thing that graded out to him being average or above average at was his three-point shooting.
Melo is better than a out of the league washed up player at least when we signed him in 2019.
Yeah. Like,
So
he
you
deserves
were right
a
about
spot.
that. Like he was better than people thought of him after the Houston stint and all that stuff.
Yeah. But, like, I take Nance over him 1,000 times out of 1,000
Oh, yeah.
times. Like, yeah, that's a major upgrade to me. And then I take Zeller over Canner. Not. I don't think the gap is quite as big, but I think Zeller is definitely an upgrade over Canner too.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm happy with this offseason. Anything else left to talk about? It's pretty long stream.
Uh-oh. Is that me or you?
You good? I think it's you.
Okay. I couldn't hear anything you're saying from it.
Oh yeah,
I
don't
can
know.
hear you now.
I mean, we good. A couple little hiccups, but yeah. Anything else you want to touch upon?
No, I think that's pretty much it. There was one other thing I wanted to mention, but I can't find it now because we got sidetracked. But yeah.
Okay. All
So
right.
yeah, I don't. Whatever.
Yeah. Schedule breakdown dropping tomorrow. I'm putting together an article with that. I'm going to put together articles with some videos to provide some additional context. So, like, I'm breaking down the schedule in the video, and then the article will have 12 key games and why they're key games for the Portland Trail Blazers. So, written content from, like, writers and everyone else launching September 6th, but for a couple videos coming up, I will have an article. Yeah, that's Monday. That's right around the corner. Mm-hmm. So but like for that video, I'm going to drop an article with it, looking at key games. That's a 31-minute recording that I have partly edited, and the article took a while. So most work I've done on a video all year long. Hopefully you guys will be able to enjoy it. You'll be able to look back throughout the season and kind of look at the schedule breakdown. So I will probably keep it as like the main video that shows up on the homepage of the channel for at least a while. Might make sense all season long. We shall see. We will be live again Sunday for our fantasy football draft. We're going to stream that for fun. So if you want to show up for that, feel free. People are asking what I was eating. I DoorDashed Chipotle at 8:45? Like 8:45? Like I had Rec League. So I DoorDashed Chipotle, and I'm hoping it would get here like 9:15. It didn't get here till about 9:40. So yeah, that's what I was eating during the stream. Normally I try and avoid that, but Thursdays are just tough. I got Rec League oftentimes till 9 because I try and play as much as I can. I'm exhausted, so I kind of need a little break. So yeah, I mean stream times. Well, it'll be closer to 3:30 during the season when we switch back to 3:30. Right now, I try and go live as soon as possible, but with Rec League going until 9 and then trying to eat and all that can be a little tough. But appreciate y'all tuning in anyway. You guys still tune in regardless, and that means the world to me. A lot of you guys are probably overseas. Shout out to the people in Australia. and across the globe that tune in for us. Anything that you have left to say, Eric?
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say real quick.
Yeah,
but
let's
it's kind of out of place now. But my
outros are kind of crap lately.
The Ben Simmons psychology thing. So for a while now, I've been not a good free throw shooter, and I'm not afraid to admit that. And it's mostly mental. Well, part of it's because like when you play pickup, you don't shoot free throws, so it's not like I'm in the gym shooting 100 free throws a day or whatever, you know. So
and then
like
your arms are so big that they're hard to lift. I feel it.
The four free throws I shoot a week in a rec league game or whatever is not enough to like practice them. But for the most part, so it gets in my head though. Like, you know, I'll miss the first one and then like I'm like, you know, psyching myself out or whatever. It's like you had that a little bit in the Rip City 3-on-3, the opposite way, where you kind of struggled the day before, but then you like got confident.
Knocked down 8 in a row to win the championship. Let's go, baby.
And so it was just on lock then. So, there's, it's nothing to do with like my mechanics or like, I can shoot free throws fine. Like it just like I think about it too much while I'm doing it. And there's not anything like if you came up and told me like, hey man, like try this or do this or think of this or like, you know, you can mentor me all you want, but when I get into that moment to shoot a free throw, especially if it's like at the end of the game, I'm going to be like psyching myself out or, you know, eventually hopefully that I overcome that or whatever. But that's something that I have to do. Like, you can't tell me, like, oh, hit these two, or, like, be confident when you shoot them, or put your feet like this, or whatever. Like, none of that stuff matters. And that's the same thing, like, Ben goes through. When he's in the fourth quarter, he doesn't want to touch the ball because he's scared to get fouled because he's, like, everyone's watching him shoot these free throws, and he's missed 2 already in a row, and he doesn't want to miss again and shoot, like, 30% from free throws and all that kind of stuff. So, as a basketball player, I mean, I know it's not the same level, and there's no fans allowed right now when we play, so I don't have anyone like watching other than the other team we're playing and my teammates, but like it still like messes with my head and stuff like that. So you can have Dame like coach me on how to shoot free throws and mentor me the whole year, but like that doesn't mean I'm going to hit free throws when it matters. And it's like that's how I feel about Ben Simmons. It's just like it's hard to like help someone that's like that. He has got to be able to figure it out himself mentally.
Yep, that's facts. That's a good analogy. So, and I agree with that absolutely, 100%. Dame ain't fixing that. I'm tired of hearing people say Dame will fix that. So, anyway, anything else that you have left for this?
Sludman says I'm not clutch. Okay, but I will welcome the opportunity. And I'll still make some, but yeah. And yeah, I can lead my team in other ways too, but yeah.
Yes, he can. I don't even know. I'm checked out from the stream mentally, much like Ben Simmons was checked out from the playoffs mentally. So I think it's time that we sign off. Video tomorrow, schedule breakdown, and then after that top 100 player series, and after that player reviews, and then we'll basically be at training camp, so that'll be dope. Hopefully you enjoyed the stream. We appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully you enjoy the video content comment up. We will see you again on Sunday if you tune in for our fantasy football draft. If not, hopefully on Monday for another episode of Blazers Uprise Live. Until next time, whenever I catch you, have a good one. We're out of here. See you later. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.